This is the preface to the Volume 3 of the Highland Clearances, which is titled the Sutherland Clearances. Preface. One guide to the future is the past. From one point of view, it is our only guide. If the past is unknown, or even worse, if it is believed to be other than it was, our main landmarks disappear. It concerns everyone if the past is falsified. This consideration should be kept firmly in mind when the Highland Clearances are being examined. What happened to the Highlanders? Why are large areas of the Scottish Highlands virtually empty? The reason is easy to find. The inhabitants, Gaelic-speaking clansfolk, were in effect driven out by the powers that be during the latter part of the 18th century and throughout the 19th century. The Highland Clearances, that is to say, the expulsion or the pauperisation of the Highlanders who had owned and lived on their clan lands for half a millennium or more, is now being represented as either a wholly beneficent operation or as something which, though unfortunate, was quite unavoidable, or even by some more brazen commentators as something that never happened. Historians belonging to this last school apparently believe that all the thousands of accounts of the clearances in every district of the Highlands, many approving, many not, were apparently made up by imaginative fiction writers. Of all the Highland Clearances, the Sutherland Clearances were the most thorough, the most widespread, and it might be thought the hardest to explain of all. This is the story of what actually happened in Sutherland in the early years of the 19th century. Those who have the temerity to attempt a description of past events must follow certain rules. It is necessary to accumulate evidence and then to evaluate it. Many documents of varying kinds from the relevant period must be consulted and weighed up, always remembering that what is written in a document is not necessarily true. If we were to rely solely on documentary evidence and to accept it without question, then the large number of documents from the Middle Ages which solemnly testify to the existence of witches would force us to believe in witchcraft. Anyone who tries to discover what happens in the past must be prepared to use all one's knowledge of events, all one's awareness of how human beings behave, all one's comprehension of why human beings say and act as they do, in order to arrive at an acceptable degree of likelihood. I have elsewhere called this, quote, using the document of the head, close quote, and it is essential if an end result remotely likely to be accurate is to be achieved. Another thought occurs to the inquiring mind. Would anyone write on French history, though he could not speak French, or compose a commentary on Germany, being unable to speak German? Let us daringly go further. Would any publisher confidently sell in the UK market a book on the history of England written by someone totally ignorant of the English language? Yet many historians write on the Highlands without speaking Gaelic. In fact, the great majority of them, including myself. Not only do nearly all historians of the Highlands not speak Gaelic, but they are totally hostile to the society which the Highlanders created and sustained for centuries, until the Highlands were conquered by what the Highlanders called the Satunach or Satanach, i.e. English-speaking peoples, the Scots Lowlanders, and supporting them, the English. In fact, ignorance of the Highlanders' language and unremitting animosity to their society appear to be almost indispensable qualifications for anyone wishing to write about the Highlanders. In 1962, Ian Grimble, who lived there, said that Sutherland was, quote, a devastated country, close quote. It, quote, remains at this day for all to see a ruined land almost entirely owned by absentee proprietors who require a wilderness for their holiday recreations, close quote. The Economist went so far as to call the Highlands, quote, Scotland's empty quarter, close quote. And of that empty quarter, Sutherland is perhaps the emptiest part. Yet the historical evidence and the archaeological remains show that the Highlands, including the glens and straths of Sutherland, had been inhabited at least for many millennia. Certainly, the Gaelic-speaking clansfolk had been there for well over 1,000 years. Now, however, there are more people of Sutherland descent in the rest of the United Kingdom and in countries overseas, e.g. the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, than there are in Sutherland. This volume tells the story of what happened to drive so many of the Sutherland people away. It is interesting that Alexander Mackenzie said, to give a proper account of the Sutherland Clearances would take a bulky volume, while Charles Jansen, husband of the 24th Countess of Sutherland, thought there had been, quote, too much sketchy history, close quote, applied to the subject. Hence the unsketchy size of the present work. As you know, I have written 5 volumes in my Highland Clearances series. Volume 1 is out, is published. Volume 3 has now been published just a week or two ago, the Sutherland Clearances. Here it is. It's both hardback and paperback. And as I said this morning when I was talking about it, I hope you feel tough, because it's, I weighed it, it's 1.5 kilograms. Why I had to write all this, but I did have to write. I didn't write anything which was not necessary to my arguments. Everything I put, there is absolutely no filling out at all. Everything is what must be there to show people what really happened in Sutherland from 1807 onwards. And believe me, it has been a question of, is it the fact or is it not the fact? And I don't care if it disagrees with what everybody else says. This is the conclusion I've arrived at after 50 years hard work, I may say. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, I hope you will subscribe, and I hope you will press the notification bell. And by all means, write in to tell us what you think, whether you agree or not. By all means, disagree, and if you do disagree, please give me an indication of where I can get my ideas right again. Thank you.